Welcome to Coloring Crypto. Today, we have an exclusive announcement of a new ICO. All right, now, if you don't know what an ICO is, go back we've got a bunch of episodes in the first 10 of Coloring Crypto episodes to listen to find out about initial coin offerings. Now, if you are somebody looking for a coin to invest in, or are just curious, like what's going on with regulations and how the SEC is coming into the picture with ICOs, and how you might want to structure an ICO, or just what's going on, this is an episode to listen to. The guests today are from 27V. We have both the CEO, Dave Butler, and the CTO. So here's what we did. We recorded an interview about a month ago, and in that time, they had their lawyers go back and look at the structure of their ICO, and they have come up with a model that sounds to me like it could be a model that a lot of other ICOs go after in terms of setting up their token just as a security. And well, go ahead and listen. So this is Dave Butler. The website is 27v.io, and this is one of our clients. So this is a paid promotion, but essentially I do the exact same thing. I just interview, follow my curiosity, get the structure, get the information, follow the passion, and stick around. This is a cool interview. The second part, we find out really about Darren as the CTO goes into a lot of details on how he has structured the back end of their new token. So 27V, here we go. Welcome to Coloring Crypto. We have Dave Butler. Will you go ahead and introduce yourself to give the audience some context?
Yeah, I'd love to. Gabe, great to be on the show. So my name is Dave Butler. I am the CEO of a blockchain technology-based company known as 27V. We are a company created with the premise that we want to help improve the industry, the restaurant discovery, the restaurant review, the food review process, which right now is dominated by players such as Yelp and Google with their own review process and a few others. We are a blockchain technology-based company that is aiming to improve that area using some of the benefits that the decentralization of blockchain technology provides.
It's great to have you back on. And what that means is that we actually recorded an interview maybe a month ago. And since that time, we're kind of in the heat of a lot of things settling and norming and forming with the whole reality of ICOs compared to like 6 months ago. For sure, it's really a different setup. Will you help us understand what's happened in the last month, last 2 months, in terms of how you guys are, what you've learned and how you're structuring your ICO?
Yeah, great question. So a lot has happened, as anybody who's been keeping up on the the crypto investment space will know. Just over the course of the last few months, I mean, you had 2017, in which we had multiple companies, maybe hundreds of companies, successfully executing ICOs. Fantastic companies raising tremendous amounts of cash to help fund their development in the early stages of their company. The SEC has taken a thoughtful approach in assessing these ICOs and how they fit within the securities law framework that we have here in the United States. And just towards the end of 2017 and then the beginning of 2018, we've seen them start to share some of their thoughts on how these ICOs and these token sales would fit within the framework that they're working under. And we've tried to adapt at the same time, kind of simultaneous with the additional guidance that they've been releasing. So as anyone who's been paying attention will know, just a couple of months ago, one of the chairman Clayton came out and said that every single ICO that he's seen, these tokens would be considered a security and would therefore be regulated by the securities laws of the United States here for purposes of those operating within the United States. I think that changed the game for a number of companies that were preparing for token sales or ICOs, and we were kind of in that process as well. We decided we wanted to prepare for an ICO probably late January in that time span or time frame, and we started going down that road, talking to some knowledgeable advisors in the space, reaching out to the best attorneys to make sure we were doing this in an appropriate way in conjunction or in accordance with the securities law framework that we have. And as we've been doing that, we initially thought that we had a fantastic business model with a model utility token that really, it was a token that had genuine use on our network, on our platform, and we felt that we were making a solid argument there for utility token status, or at the very least to be able to do an offering to accredited investors using sort of a staffed arrangement, the simple agreement for future tokens. Now it feels like the environment has shifted, and even those staffed arrangements could potentially be under fire. I'm not a securities attorney myself, Gabe, but my understanding is it has to do with there's a restriction on the tradability of these tokens or of securities, some kind of a 12-month restriction. And even if you're using a staffed arrangement, once those tokens or once those securities convert into tokens and the platform actually goes live, the SEC may still make the argument that at that time they are again a security and would be subject to a 12-month tradability restriction. So we wanted to create something that would provide a return to potential investors, crypto investors, would comply completely with the securities regulations that we have here in the United States, and something that was kind of a different flavor that we're hoping will appeal to the crypto investment community. So we came up with a pretty unique structure. Do you want me to walk you through it?
Let me. This is great. I mean, I think it's funny for folks that are listening to this podcast episode for the first time. They might think, "Oh man, this is really dry, like legal, financial stuff." But for folks that are interested in ICOs, this is what's happening. Like this is like really difficult to figure out how to structure your ICO now that it's really clear that in the U.S. As far as we can tell right now, any sort of token, any digital token, is going to be classified as a security. And so this is why we're talking to you, is to kind of find out what is, you've been working with lots of lawyers and it's been a month since we talked to you last. So yeah, you're going to offer us kind of or explain to us what you guys have come up with as a way to make this all come together in a digital crypto platform.
Yeah, you bet. So when I talk to folks in the market, when I talk to some of the more experienced angel investors who have played around in the crypto space, when I talk to securities attorneys, the prevailing thought right now, and I don't know whether this will turn out to be true or not, but the prevailing thought is that the ICO market in the United States may actually be dying because of these, the need to comply with these securities regulations that we have. We wanted to create something that would still fit the mold, that would appeal to the crypto investment community and would still comply. And what we came up with was a different type of security. Our business model, and maybe we'll walk through that in a minute here, our business model does use tokens. Tokens are actually mined through the review process that we have, but we're not going to sell those tokens in this initial sale, in this security sale. What we are going to sell is just a traditional preferred share, in some ways very similar to what has been established or propagated throughout the United States in early stage financing. In some ways pretty different. So what we wanted to do was provide a preferred share that the investment community here in the United States or outside of the United States could purchase from us at $1 per share. And then the thought process is, once we roll out our platform and once we start generating revenue through our activity, which we hope to start generating revenue in maybe Q1 of 2019 based on our current roadmap. But once we start generating revenue, we would then buy back those shares from the crypto investors for $3. So they buy them for $1, we buy them back from them for $3, a 3x return when they're actually purchased by us or redeemed by us from the investors.
And are you guys setting that up? Is there any kind of time frame or roadmap when you expect that to happen?
Yeah. So we anticipate having the product rolled out sometime in Q4 2018. And by then we will have already, we'll be knee deep in our pre-sales efforts, and we'll have our customers lined up. We actually already have 30 or 40 or so customers lined up already, restaurants lined up to participate. So immediately after the product launches, which is hopefully Q4 2018, late Q4, we will begin generating revenue. Our intent is to buy back or redeem all or as many of these shares as possible, but we would like to be able to repurchase all of them beginning in 2019 when we have some revenue.
So this is something I think listeners want to know is, and we've found this with a lot of the other ICOs we're working with is folks are structuring their token sale so that it just is a security, and people that buy into this are getting equity. And so it begs the question, what's the advantage of doing this versus just a traditional equity raise? And also maybe in the last interview with you, we gave a really good intro of your background. I mean, that's your background. So maybe you're a good person to help us understand how is this different than just a traditional equity raise?
Yeah, so great question. So what we're trying to do here is combine some of the the benefits of having a debt financing with the protection that might come with an equity financing. And that sounds kind of backwards because usually it's kind of the other way around, where you want the benefits of an equity financing with the protection of a debt. What we wanted to do is provide something where investors, in particular those who invest a larger amount, will have a potential for a 3x return in year one or year two or something, a fairly fast 3x return. And then those who maybe, in the event that let's say we operate for 5 or 6 years and we successfully redeem or purchase most of the shares, but there are a few that are still outstanding when we sell the company or liquidate the company. We wanted to build in a feature to try and protect those investors. And what we came up with is very equity-like in nature. It's very similar to kind of a 1x liquidation, 1x conversion preference for those who are in the VC community or have dealt with preferred shares in the past will know what I'm talking about. Basically, what it means is in the event that we liquidate the company and we have not yet redeemed all of these shares from the investors, proceeds from that liquidation will first pay back those investors whatever amounts they invested, and then they will participate with the common shareholders in the remaining proceeds. So they effectively participate as owners of the company in addition to receiving their original investment amount. So we felt like by creating this, this security in this way, for those who invest early and invest a larger amount, they will be able to receive that 3x return more quickly. And in the event that you don't get redeemed by the time we sell the company, there's a back-end protection to make sure you're still enjoying some of the upside and participating with the other common shareholders.
Okay, so let me see if I understand. So in a typical fundraise, an angel investor may put in, $50,000, for example, and then they're just stuck there. They've got to wait until there's some kind of liquidity event, like it gets sold. And what you're saying is with this model, there's a lot more it's more dynamic, where they can put in a smaller amount, the amount they put in is more flexible, and then the model is going to create this liquidity event that's likely or could very much happen much sooner.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, with the traditional model, you're kind of relying on the company to generate a liquidity event, and you could invest $50,000 very early on as an angel investor. And then you have to know that 9 out of 10 investments that you make are going to go belly up, and you're barely going to get your money back, if that. And then 1 out of every 10 will actually generate the return that you need to make up for your losses on the other 9. And my numbers might be a little bit off. Maybe it's 2 or 3 that work out of every 10. I think it varies by geography and industry, but it's something like that, right? The breakout. We wanted to create something where the crypto investors, the first recourse for them is to generate this 3x return, and that's really why you would invest in this or participate in this offering. The other thing that maybe I would note is, participants in a traditional token sale, I mean, they typically have to rely on 2 things. A typical token sale or ICO, they have to rely on 2 things in order to generate a return on their investment, right? I mean, number one, the company has to execute on their business model, on their strategy. They have to build their product and then successfully roll it out. But then the second thing that is completely outside the company's control and outside most of the investors' control is they have to rely on the independent markets to generate an increase in the value of these tokens or coins. And that often, those pricing, that pricing can often be manipulated or is often hard to predict. And even if a company successfully executes their business model, that's no guarantee for any ICO participant or token sale participant that they will generate a return on their token purchase. So one of the benefits of what we've created here is, we've removed one of those variables from the equation. You don't have to rely on an independent market, the fluctuations in an independent market, hope for them to generate a return for you. You only have to rely on the company being able to execute on the business model. So there's only one of those two factors. And then if the company does successfully execute on that business model, then the company starts to redeem those tokens and everybody's happy.
It's going to be really interesting to see if this is, the model or, the model you guys you're using here, if this becomes, sort of the norm or one of the common ways to do this. Because, 6 months ago when the noise began that the SEC was going to get, more strict with utility tokens and that, all utility tokens were really investments and they're really securities, I thought, well, gee, then, why not just do regular equity fundraisers? But it sounds like, with this model, there really is, forgive the, terms, but a usefulness, let's say, of a security token in terms of it being an advantage over a typical fundraise.
Yep, I would agree completely. And when it's funny, when I walk people through our business model and we talk about the token, the first thing they say is, wow, that's an actual utility token. That token actually has utility on a network, a valid blockchain use. So we feel like we're building something that's pretty cool, that probably would have fit the mold of a utility token had we gone that route. But in the interest of just making sure we are, complying 100% with the regulations that have been set for us, we elected to create this separate security entirely.
So that's the financial sort of back end piece, and folks can check in and participate. You've got to be an accredited investor in the U.S., as I understand it. But let's now move into the actual product you're making is a really cool thing, and it is built on the blockchain.
Yeah, you bet. And you are absolutely correct. U.S.-based investors will need to be accredited investors. Non-U.S.-based investors, and I should say that accreditation verification process will likely also apply to residents of some other countries that have similar restrictions, like I believe the UK and maybe Canada have similar restrictions, but our attorneys will make sure we get that right. And then folks who want to participate who are outside of those countries, specifically the U.S., it'll be what's called a Reg S offering, and they can participate. Now, to answer your question on the business model, yeah, we feel like we're building something that's really, really cool. It was born from discussions that we were having with restaurant owners. We honestly, we had created an app, maybe to rewind like 6 months ago, we had created an app that we wanted to be, or we positioned it to be, a competitor to Groupon. It was supposed to be kind of a fixed fee Groupon model. For those of you who are familiar with Groupon's model, they take a really large cut of the revenue that's generated on each of these deals. It's somewhere between 40 and 50%. A lot of restaurants simply cannot use Groupon because of that large cut that's being taken. It just eats into their margins so much that it's cost prohibitive for them. So we originally created an app that was supposed to be a competitor to Groupon. But as we really dove into it, we started talking to restaurant owners, and we found that, what they really disliked was the restaurant review process. And yeah, a lot of them didn't like this, the situation with Groupon and the gigantic revenue cut that they were taking. But a lot of them were like, okay, but I can generate revenue in other places, so that's not a deal breaker for me. But they would independently, on their own, discuss or bring up how much they disliked current restaurant review platforms. The main one being Yelp. And they would mention a few different things that they disliked about these restaurant platforms. 3 things specifically. The first one is they feel like they can't trust those review platforms. They feel like when, if you partner with Yelp or if you pay Yelp advertising fees, then Yelp will highlight your positive reviews and hide your negative reviews and boost your ratings, the 1 through 20 ratings or whatever that they have on Yelp. But if you don't partner with them and if you don't pay them advertising fees, they will do the exact opposite. They will hide your positive reviews and highlight your negative reviews. And nobody can prove that this is happening, but all of them believe it's happening. And I believe that the Yelp has actually been investigated by the FTC, and I don't believe that the FTC found any wrongdoing on behalf of Yelp. But the fact that this sentiment exists so strongly, so prevalently throughout the restaurant community, I think reflects a very real problem. And with the centralized nature, this black box that Yelp has, where reviews come in from consumers, and then nobody knows what happens behind closed doors, what Yelp is doing with those reviews, but you see what they spit out into the app. We felt like blockchain technology really provided a unique solution to that black box, the ability to decentralize decentralize this process and get these reviews written in a way where anybody can see what's happening. Anybody can see the positive reviews that have been generated, the negative reviews that have been generated, the algorithms behind the ranking systems. The ability to make that completely transparent, we felt, was a major boon for restaurants and for consumers, frankly.
Yeah, with Yelp, it's funny you mentioned that. I've got friends, with their own small businesses, and I remember just hearing them gripe so much because it is sort of a monopoly. It's like you've got to do well in Yelp, and if you get a couple of bad reviews that you can't address, or you're not paying Yelp, that is, I agree, that's the perception. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true, and you hear it a lot more from the restaurants, but you also hear it from consumers sometimes as well. Not nearly to the same extent, but consumers will get onto Yelp and they'll look at the top 20 and they'll see number 1 is a 3-star restaurant, number 19 is a 5-star restaurant, and they start scratching their heads going, hey, how exactly are these rankings being generated? Nobody really knows.
Right.
And they might have a perfectly valid reason. I have no idea how Yelp does it, but the fact that it's not transparent is a little bit of a problem.
So we got decentralization. That's going to be one of the first sort of reasons to use the blockchain. What else?
Yeah. So the second problem that was identified as we interviewed restaurant owners, and I should mention we interviewed about 40 or so restaurant owners to make sure we were getting a good sample size and getting a really reflective viewpoint of what works for them, what doesn't work. But the second major problem that was identified is they hated that, if a user leaves a negative review of their restaurant, they don't have a chance to try and fix that negative review. It just gets posted online for everybody to see. And sometimes negative reviews are absolutely fair. Sometimes they're not totally fair. But whether they're fair or not, restaurants absolutely want to fix them, right? They want to talk to the customer. They want to figure out what went wrong. They want to fix their processes. They care passionately about these customers, and they don't like that they don't have a chance to remediate it before it gets posted online. Sometimes with some platforms, they can then engage in kind of an online back and forth discussion that kind of looks ugly for everyone, and most restaurants don't really like participating in that. But even then, it's not always available. So we wanted to create something where if a negative review is posted, the restaurant has a chance to remediate that negative review through the platform in an anonymized way, where the user doesn't have to reveal their actual identity, but the restaurant knows that it's a verified review, and the restaurant can say, hey, consumer, I heard you didn't like whatever, or you had a bad experience. We really want to make things right for you. Here's come back, give us another try. Here's a free meal or something like that, and it's all kind of managed through the platform.
And is there a record of that on the blockchain that's transparent?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned that, Gabe. That was actually a point of discussion for us because on the one hand, we knew restaurants, they didn't want that information to get public or published publicly. They wanted to be able to have those discussions behind closed doors. On the other hand, kind of defeats the purpose of the decentralization of using the blockchain technology if we start hiding stuff. So we decided we were better off allowing everybody to see exactly what's going on in those conversations that are happening. And a lot of times we felt like that gives a better, more clear picture of each individual dispute or situation anyways, and provides a better product for everybody.
Yeah, and I think people just want that. I mean, even the App Store, the Apple App Store has existed for 10 years or so, And it took until last year until they finally responded to this massive call out for, hey, as an app developer, I want to be able to respond to this negative review. And it really makes so much sense, because sometimes the review, they just miss something. Maybe the customer had just a strange bad experience. And other times the restaurant in this case could actually have real feedback and go like, man, we've got to fix that. And when they do fix it or improve it, they want a chance to respond and say, and yeah, it's just a much more natural sort of loop there that you've completed. Okay, so those are 2 points. What else?
Yeah, so the third problem that we identified kind of has to do with the incentive structure that exists right now. Restaurants, they feel that current restaurant review platforms, in particular Yelp and Google to some extent as well, they feel like they provide an unbalanced reflection of the quality of their businesses because customers are far more likely to leave a review for a restaurant if they've had a negative experience than they are if they've had a positive experience. It's just kind of this visceral emotional reaction. That's really your only incentive to leave a review, is if you've had some kind of strong emotional experience one way or the other. Generally speaking, if you've had a bad experience. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, just state that again, because it is counterintuitive until you think about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, picture it. If you go to a restaurant and you have a bad experience, you're far more likely to get on Yelp and start rage typing something, right? Because you feel like you've got, first of all, you're angry. Second of all, you feel like you have kind of this responsibility to the greater community to warn them about some bad experience or bad restaurant that you've dealt with. On the flip side, if you have a good experience, that's kind of the expectation in some ways, right? I mean, you gave them money expecting to have a good experience, and because your expectations were fulfilled, you generally just walk out of that restaurant happy. Some people will leave a review if presented the opportunity. For example, I use a food delivery app a lot, DoorDash, I believe it is. I love the way they've done it, right? Where you use their service, you order food, and then the next time you open up the app, maybe it's a day later or a week later, the first thing you see when you open it up is just 2 simple questions. Give us a 5-star, 1 to 5-star rating on the food. Give us a 1 to 5-star rating on the delivery. It's super simple. Takes me less than 3 seconds, and it reminds me to do it. And I have no problem giving a 5-star review. I feel like they did a good job of presenting that. We wanted to create a structure wherein the incentive to leave a review, you have an equal incentive to leave a positive review as you do if you have a negative review, so that the quality or the reflection of the businesses of each restaurant, it truly reflects how the customers feel about their experiences there. So what we came up with was this. When a customer goes to a restaurant and they review that restaurant, they earn a token. And this is that mining process I was telling you about earlier. It's not mining in the traditional sense. Nothing is happening, in some server farm somewhere. But somebody goes to a restaurant and they mine a token by leaving a review. That token gets added to their account. On the back end, every time that we open up a new geography, a new area, we sit down with the top 30 or 40 or 50 restaurants in that area, and we look at the menu with them and we say, hey, when we see this menu, is there an item on this menu that you view as what they call in the industry a loss leader? It's something that restaurants will routinely give away to consumers as a way to generate new business, obtain new customers, or generate additional business from existing customers. And usually, it's an appetizer or a dessert or a drink or sometimes even an entree or a buy one, get one free or something. And they're currently, most restaurants are already doing this process. They're just using Valpak or Money Mailer or Groupon or some other method. But we would like to sit down with the top 40 or 50 restaurants whenever we open up a geography, identify those menu items, and then populate our database with them. So that on the front end, when a consumer earns a token, mines a token by leaving a review, they can then click on a different section of the app and they can see 40 or 50 restaurants within a 5 or a 10 mile radius of wherever they are. And they can click on any of those restaurants and they can see what they can redeem their token for at any of those establishments. So we felt like it was a really cool way to get 2 birds with 1 stone. On the one hand, we can help consumers, we can incentivize them to leave reviews, and we can help them to earn rewards for free food, redeemable at any, a number of different locations in their area. And then on the other side, from the restaurant standpoint, we're helping them generate new business. So it's kind of a win-win for everybody involved. And from 27V's standpoint, that also constitutes a revenue-generating transaction for us because we, at that point, bill the restaurant a small amount of money for every redemption.
So to sort of summarize, this 27V, what you're building, this will be an app that a consumer can go to, let's say they're in a certain city, and they can download this, and it will provide them, the ability to see reviews of restaurants and that kind of thing, but also the ability to earn rewards and the amount of transparency, just be able to see, the history of, and just trust it, just to really believe, the reviews you're seeing. But also, that sounds like that could be a lot of fun to if you're able to run around and get rewarded with some of these various things, your free tacos or your free soda or whatever it is. What else do you want to tell us about the experience people will have?
Yeah, what we're really proud of, we're really excited about is going to be kind of the discovery process. One of my favorite things, I've traveled a lot in my career over the years, and I've always pulled up Yelp and with varying degrees of success. And I don't want to turn this into a Yelp bashing 30 minutes or whatnot. But I loved being able to just discover new places in every city that I was, discover the best place for a massaman curry or sushi or whatever the case may be, right? So we're really excited to be able to build out a restaurant discovery portion. In fact, to give you kind of a snapshot of something that we're looking to build out, what we would like to do is, when you leave a review, we would like to ask a simple question or maybe two simple questions every time a user leaves a review. And they would be optional. If you're short for time and you want to skip it, go ahead and skip it. But we want to ask, first of all, hey, what did you order? And then we could ask something else, like how was your overall experience? But we really, really want to ask, what was it that you ordered? And have them answer in 30 characters or less. We're not looking for them to give us a long monologue about their experience. We just want to know what it was in 30 characters or less that they ordered. And then when you think about the wealth of information that we can accumulate and start to dissect and analyze once we understand what people are ordering, where they're ordering it from, and how their experience was with that food, we can start doing really cool things like, hey, zoom in on the city of Denver and then tell me what the top 5 burgers are in the city of Denver, or zoom out and see the entire United States, who has the best sushi in the entire United States. And because the ranking systems that we'll have, the algorithms that we'll have, we'll be able to identify that, and it'll be completely transparent. Everybody can see why we're saying this is the best sushi in the entire United States, because you can see the math behind it. You can see what the general population is actually saying. Now, is that still subjective in nature? Yeah, the best sushi is, kind of unique to everybody's individual experiences, but I still kind of feel like it's a really cool feature from a discovery standpoint.
That is cool. That's awesome. And you've got a really solid team. We're going to follow this interview with interview that we had with your CTO, with Darren. Just real briefly, what's your approach to building out the rest of the team?
Yeah, great question. So right now we've got a small co-founder team, or a founding team of 3 with myself, with Darren on the technology side, with Alexa, who brings a wealth of knowledge on the marketing side, the small business side. We also have a fantastic team of advisors made up of various individuals, professionals in the restaurant community, in the advertising community, angel investors, a couple very successful angel investors as well. So we feel like we have a really, really solid foundation, and we're going to grow organically. We don't see a need to rush anything. We'll roll this out. We'll probably hire another 1 or 2 developers immediately, within the next month or two, and really accelerate the development process. But we want to make sure we do it the right way, and we will do it the right way. And then as soon as we've got the development team built out, we'll start to dive into some of the other functional areas, sales, business development being the primary one. We're going to hire a world-class sales team to help us roll this out geographically in a very, highly strategic way, identifying the right geographies that we need to target, and then really pushing this out, making solid relationships with the best restaurants in each of those geographies. So, yeah, we're really excited about this thing. It's got a lot of steam behind it right now, a lot of momentum.
Dave, thank you so much for coming on and sharing 27V with us. Really fascinating how you guys are structuring this. I'm looking forward to seeing if other ICOs sort of mimic the structure of what you guys are doing, because it sounds like a good way to do it. And I'm also looking forward to the launch of the product. Thanks for being on.
Well, thank you very much, Gabe. It was a pleasure being on, and we're really looking forward to the share sale coming up.
Awesome. Have a great day, Dave. Talk to you soon.
All right, you too. Bye.
Bye-bye. So that was Dave Butler, the CEO and co-founder of 27V. You can reach him. His email is dave@27v.io. That's DAVE at 27v.io. And if you want more information, just check out their website, 27v.io. All right, so next we've got Darren, the CTO. And I love this interview because, his not being a developer, I'm always curious, how complex the back end of structuring a token on the blockchain is. And Darren's just really forthright, sharing a lot of his sort of exploratory process, and then also a great founding story. So if you're a co-founder or if you're an entrepreneur, this is a great story of serendipity and getting out there and building your network. All right, so here we go.
I'm Darren Holbrook. I've been a developer my entire life. Started tinkering at a really young age with computers and software, Lego robotics, model rockets. Just always been interested in, doing fun things, using my hands, and kind of just, a lot of that, and then turned that into an actual career with building websites. I'm more centered on the software side. Kind of moved away from hardware, but software I feel like I have a little more control over. So I've been in a lot of different spaces: retail, government, insurance, health, and then side projects. The list goes on. I've just been in a lot of different industries. Now getting into, restaurants, reviews, things like that. So
I love it. I mean, for me, I love talking to the developers in this podcast because I am not one, and I'm fascinated by what's involved in all building software, but also particularly on the blockchain. Can you kind of tell us the arc for you of discovering blockchain and kind of adding this to your suite of tool sets?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm the kind of developer that likes to, for lack of a better word or term, cut corners. I'm a very resourceful person. I mean, why build a wheel if it's already been built? So I'm the kind of person that looks for tools in my tool belt. I'm not really interested in building the hammer or innovating the hammer. I want to find the best hammer on the market and use that to build the next fastest car, or the coolest bridge, or the best house. So I'm always looking for tools for my tool belt. When I saw blockchain, it was about 2 years ago when I was working for a government contractor. We had an engineer that was taking a new position at a company, maybe you've heard of Overstock.com, located here in Salt Lake City. She was taking a position at Overstock, and she said that it was for a blockchain Bitcoin position, and that caught my eye. I'm sitting there going, what exactly? I've heard this. I've kind of had my ear to the ground about blockchain, but I didn't really understand, what it could do for businesses. I thought blockchain and Bitcoin were synonymous, and it was just magic internet money that people were trading around. So she actually really got me interested, to the point that I interviewed at Overstock and wanted to work on their blockchain side, but unfortunately they needed my talents in other places. So I went and worked for the search team and helped do some stuff on their search page. But anyway, that's besides the point. I'm always interested in cutting corners. So as I was learning about blockchain, I noticed how it could basically replace your entire database to an extent. Now, when you're developing applications, the dynamic part of a website or an application needs to live somewhere, and that lives in a database. But when you log into a bank, you pass a certain set of credentials, and then you get a certain slice of that database that is for you, your account transactions, your overview, your money that's in their bank system. By having blockchain replace all the infrastructure that goes into that entire account system, that ledger system, the deduction, the debits, the credits, blockchain handles that for you. So I saw that at a very early stage, and I said, this is incredible. I mean, as a developer, I can just jump on some open source software, start issuing a token or issue a cryptocurrency that I'm backing up, that I say is valid, and distribute that to my customers who also agree that it's valid. And it handles the credits, the debits, it handles reconciliation, and hopefully, depending on the technology that you use, it does it instantly. And that's just incredible to me as a developer, because that whole infrastructure is extremely costly to set up in terms of development time, and it's complicated. There's some programming languages that don't even do simple addition and subtraction correctly, like JavaScript. It has problems with doing decimal point addition and subtraction and multiplication, and that's just that you can't build an account ledger system when the programming language has issues doing debits and credits, but the blockchain handles it for you. And so I added that to my tool belt because I figured this could be a really valuable thing to learn, at least understand, and now we've moved into actually implementing this into a business idea, and here we are. So
that's and just to kind of continue on that a little bit, that just really interesting. As you kind of were adding this blockchain to your tool belt, what were some of the things that either were not what you expected, were better than you expected, or still maybe concerns?
So that's a good question, and let me answer the first part. So what I was not upset about but disappointed in is when you have a normal database, think of it as an Excel file. I'm pretty sure everyone's used Excel before, but you have rows and columns, and let's just kind of make a parallel comparison to an online database. I was really upset that if there's not a column that the blockchain supports, like you have certain columns for different account name, account number, account date, time, timestamp, things like that. Those are columns that go down, and then a row will be like an account, will be customer 1, customer 2, and then it just goes across the row. Well, with blockchain, and a thing that a lot of blockchain networks like Stellar, EOS are kind of struggling with, is it's not very easy to add another column. So if you just need another data point for all your customers in your database, it's tough to add that additional column. They get around it by adding things like metadata into account transactions. When you pay someone money, you can add a little piece of data, but adding another column is tough. So is how they that kind of left a little bad taste in my mouth, because as a developer, you don't want to ever be restricted in making anything happen. So if a stakeholder comes to you and says, hey, can you add this to the database, and to tell them no is usually something you don't want to do, usually a problem. So it does have limitations in that sense. That's why it's important to stay simple. Keep it simple. Whatever thing you're trying to implement on the blockchain, just keep it simple, because it does have limitations. It's not a catch-all perfect scenario in every single business application that you want to build on blockchain. So you have to be smart about it. You can't just architect your application as you go. You need to really plan, and that's one thing that I guess I learned that I didn't really like.
Which platform are you guys going to build on, and sort of tell us, the differences between the various things you looked at?
Yeah, to answer that question, we looked at three blockchain networks or three blockchain protocols: Ethereum, Stellar, and EOS. Let's talk about Ethereum. Ethereum's probably been around the longest. Stellar probably next. EOS is pretty new. EOS was created by the same creator. I believe it's Dan Abramov, and he created Steemit. He took what he learned from Steemit, sold it, and now he's working on EOS. EOS is fantastic. I feel like it's not quite ready for mass developer adoption, not quite ready for production, so we dismissed that one. We looked at Ethereum. Ethereum it's a little slow in terms of, we want to do point of sale transactions here. So we looked at Ethereum, 10 to 15, 20, 30 minutes on their settlement time. We said, what, let's see what else is out there. We came across Stellar. Stellar right now is, at the time of this podcast, is being traded, I think it's the 8th highest market cap. And so it's up there. It's supported. It's got a whole developer portal that you can go in and check out all the things that they offer to developers. Stellar is basically built to do exactly what we're trying to do. And the reasons are performance. Stellar is significantly cheaper and faster than other protocols like Ethereum. Transactions verify in 3 to 5 seconds on the Stellar network compared to 10 to 30 minutes on Ethereum. Low fees. So Stellar costs a fraction of a cent to settle a transaction. So that's really what we wanted in a blockchain technology, because if we're going to have people redeeming tokens and earning tokens, thousands, millions a day, we're only going to have to pay a penny or two, which is fantastic. Security. So Stellar's smart contract language is simple, and it's simple for a reason. It limits the potential to write exploitable code. This helps our users trust that our tokens are safe. Last thing is stability. So at the time of this podcast, Stellar's XLM is the 8th most valued crypto asset on the market. So I'm looking at this and I see these 4 pillars kind of line up with exactly what we're trying to do. A token that is quick, easy, secure, and doesn't cost a whole lot of money to transact. Stellar's fantastic. We decided to build our application on Stellar. Now, I've talked with some big thought leaders in the Stellar ecosystem on their Slack channel, Discord, Twitter, Reddit, and I've shared this idea with a couple of really intelligent guys. Like I said, some really intelligent thought leaders, and some of the things that they're saying is, I can quote these people, but they're just going to have a screen name, so it's not going to make much sense. But they say this is exactly what blockchain and Stellar was built for. They talk about, one guy kind of just, figuratively threw his hands up in the air and said, finally, something that actually uses Stellar for what it was meant to be used for. And that's synonymous across all of the people that we're talking to about this from a technology standpoint. So it's definitely a technology that I can get behind and say, what, we've made the right decision in moving forward with Stellar, and it's gonna revolutionize the way that our application works. It's going to be fast. We're going to build it on, I can get into this if you'd like. We're going to build it on a microservice architecture with a Kubernetes backend. So Kubernetes is another up and coming technology that handles scalability. So long gone are the days when you try and log into your favorite application and it says, authentication service is down. Or you log in and you try and send something to a friend and it's just waiting and spinning and spinning, and then it finally, times out. The way that we're going to build this is how I've been building applications for the last 2 years, and it's rapidly scalable. And so yeah, we can get into that if you'd like, but I don't know if it'll be over your head or not, but.
Yeah, it will be, but it's interesting to go into. Let me ask you before we do that. Let me ask you this. I mean, because one of the things I've often heard is with these emerging technologies, for a developer, it's really important to have a strong and responsive community. And it sounds like you're finding that on the Slack and Discord channels where you can get on there and ask questions and sort of find out things. Because I mean, as I understand it, as far as it may be a long these are all still, emerging and tweaking things. Is that kind of your
Absolutely.
experience?
Yeah. So, there's, like you said, there's things changing all the time. One thing I've noticed is when we talk with these thought leaders, they say, oh well, they'll bring up a solution to a problem that I surface, and they'll say, oh, you know what? Well, you can just solve it in this way. And then someone will say, actually, that was deprecated in the last release. You're going to have to do it this way. So there is going to be a challenge in making sure that we're using all the correct API methods that are actually still in existence. But the one cool thing is to overcome this, we're going to launch our own Horizon API, and we're going to launch our own Stellar core nodes, all built on Kubernetes. So as we need a new API server because we're bringing on new customers in a new geographical area, one click of the button and I can scale up our application and start deploying new virtual machines right across our Kubernetes cluster with zero to little downtime.
Let's see if we can get into this. So this is the first time I've even heard of Kubernetes. Can
Sure.
you define that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So Kubernetes is basically what Google Cloud runs their entire Google Cloud Compute engine on. So Kubernetes allows a developer to spin up a cluster of virtual machines that work together, as opposed to one single beefy machine that does linear process, well. We're going to spin up a cluster of machines that do asynchronous processes, and they coordinate with each other through a master node. So Kubernetes is kind of like hiring more workers to get this one task done, and then delegating different tasks to each worker, and then it all reconciles back up to the master node. You can set it up that way, or you can set it up in a round robin approach where it says, all right, this user, let's go ahead and send you to this node number 1. Then user number 2 comes in, we'll send you to node number 2. If we get an influx of people and we run out of nodes because all these virtual machines are being overutilized, we can set a threshold that says, at 75% utilization, spin up another node, spin up another authentication service. And then so the next time someone comes in, they need to authorize to our application, authorize to Vicinity, and log in, just simply log in. Let's say that we have a big influx of people because we're doing a big sale, or we're doing a big promotion, and all these people log in. Well, we're going to be able to spin up authentication service nodes to meet that demand and then spin them down. And that also helps with cost. It helps, we only have to pay for a few hours for spinning up those nodes, as opposed to me having to log in, or whoever your DevOps engineer is having to log in and say, what's our utilization? Oh, it's 99%. No wonder why people are having problems logging in. Well, let me go ahead and just spin up let me make a snapshot here. Let me copy this database over there, move that over. 2 hours later, all your users are kind of fed up and they're done. They don't want to log in anymore because they've already moved on with their lives. Well, it just takes too long. So you can't scale ad hoc. You can't scale quickly. Kubernetes allows this type of infrastructure to happen. They're trying to get Kubernetes into the video game industry. I mean, I know that every time a new video game launches, nobody can log in, or when you try and get into a chat and nobody can hear each other because servers are just getting slammed. Well, there's a big opportunity there for Kubernetes to go in and kind of mediate this. Kubernetes is starting to catch wind. It's been around since I think 2012, so it's been a while. But now we have the open source community is jumping all over it. I'm learning how to use it. I've already deployed a cluster myself. It's really simple. Again, just find the right tool and let simplicity take its course. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. Just know what tools to use and use them effectively. And that's what we're going to find, right?
Awesome. Yeah, I was just going to ask you, if there were lots of other developers exploring integration of Kubernetes with the blockchain.
You know what? I'm gonna say that I'm probably the thought leader on that. I haven't discussed a whole lot with people. They've just basically said, spin up as many Stellar core instances as you need, spin up as many Horizon API instances, which is the interfacing API server to the core Stellar network. Spin up as many of those as you think you're going to need and kind of just go with it. I'm looking at that as an opportunity to spin up my Kubernetes cluster with Stellar Core and Horizon API. So I feel like I'm going to blaze some trails here. It's going to be a little painful, but I'm certainly capable of doing it. Stellar already has, like I said, fantastic developer resources. They have a Docker image that you can just pull right into Kubernetes, already ready to go. So that part's been handled for me.
You make it sound so easy.
I know, right? It's you got to just, you got to use the right tools. Like I said, Docker is a whole nother discussion we can talk about. Docker basically it's a little brother to Kubernetes. Kubernetes is like Docker 2.0, but it still uses Docker images and Docker containers to get things spun up. I don't know if this, I don't know, maybe people are super interested in this, but no, I'm going to probably be the trailblazer on this. And I'm willing to take that challenge. I can already kind of architect it into my mind and go, okay, this is going to work. I don't really see too many roadblocks. But fact of the matter is you're not going to have this CryptoKitties problem where nobody can log in. You're not going to have this big old slam on the network. Let's say Vicinity just takes the world by storm. Obviously, that's what I'm hoping. Let's say that we get millions of users nationwide. We're not going to have a problem scaling, is what I'm trying to say. We're not going to have downtime. I mean, maybe a little bit if our whole cluster goes down, but we're positioning ourselves to have, the most nimble, robust, innovative, bleeding edge application out there. And the back end that nobody sees is going to be, manifest that as well. So that's the point I'm trying to make.
I'm thinking of, developers out there who want to get involved, maybe they're sort of getting involved in blockchain solutions. I mean, it sounds like you've got a pretty extensive background, but I mean, is there anything you can recommend as resources? Like what do you turn to when you're stuck on a problem and have to learn how to solve it?
That's a tough question because there's not a whole lot of documentation out there. There's very, very few true blockchain developers in the world. I mean, more and more are popping up because they're learning, but I mean, there's not a whole lot of resources out there. It's still very new. Is what I do is I have my little Rolodex of contacts that I go to. So if I have a Kubernetes problem, I hit up Microsoft. Microsoft is going full on investing into Kubernetes. They're changing their entire Azure computing backend to utilize Kubernetes. They're pushing it hard. Google doing the same thing. So I just try and network a lot. Just try and get in contact with people. Hit me up on Twitter. Hit me up on LinkedIn. I can try and help direct people to the right resources if they have problems. But to be completely frank with you, Gabe, just trial and error, figuring it out yourself, having a good understanding of the problem you're trying to solve, and then Google little pieces of that problem and see if you can, architect a solution around the small little pieces that you can find solutions for. And that's what I do. And then again, too, I find smart people and I buy them lunch, make sure that we're buddies and I pick their brains. So networking, I think, would be number one. Number two would just be your own gray matter.
Well, let's I want to kind of just bridge the gap and just hear your story of how you discovered Vicinity, and then you can kind of share your contact points so people can reach you. So how did you meet Dave? How'd you get involved in Vicinity?
I was having some problems getting my yard taken care of. I was working, I'm working on business idea after business idea. I got a 9-to-5er that I'm working at, and I enlisted some help through the local, classifieds to have some people come out and say, give me a bid. What can you do on getting my yard back in shape?
This is literally your yard. This is not a tech term. This is a yard.
No, this is my grass area outside my house.
Okay, we're starting there.
Here we go, right? And so it's just funny how you just have to network with everybody. It's so important. So I talked with a landscaper. He said that he says, what do you do? And I said, I'm a web developer. I develop applications. He goes, oh, that's so cool. I have all these electric yard, electric yard appliances or electric yard tools, like a leaf blower and a trimmer, edger, lawnmower, things like that. I'm a distributor. He says, would you be interested in helping me sell these, maybe building a website? And he says, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, maybe I would. So we started talking, becoming friends, going to lunch, just talking about a potential business opportunity and selling, yard equipment online. And then he has a friend that was starting a company that we sat down and met. And he wanted some help he wanted some development help, and he wanted to pitch me the idea. We sat down, we talked over dinner, and I said, you know what, this is too much for one person, but I could definitely, try and find a team that could help you out if you want to go further. And then he had a friend who was Dave, and Dave was in the looking for a CIO or a CTO, and this acquaintance forwarded the information on to Dave. Dave and I sat down. We instantly hit it off. I knew that he had his head on straight. He's a really smart individual in terms of the business side of things. He says, here's what we're doing. Here's what we want to do. I need somebody that knows how to, bring this to fruition. After one dinner meeting, he was calling me a founder. So he brought me on board, just gave me the keys to the kingdom, and it's been smooth ever since. For whatever I lack, Dave fills in, and vice versa. It's neat how that started, because it came from getting a bid on, getting some yard work done, and just opening your mouth, telling people what you're good at. Every person has a story, every person has something to share. And every person has something every person you can learn from every single person you come in contact with.
I love
think
it.
that's so important, and that's how that's how good opportunities, that's how good things happen, because the more people you network with, you can start to pick and choose your favorites and bring them in on a project and make something happen. And that's where Dave brought me in. Now we have a contact at Overstock, we have a contact at T0. Other really major blockchain players, and yeah, we're trying to build a good network of people that believe the same thing, that blockchain is here to stay, and blockchain can replace and expedite a lot of the development process. And that's really what's exciting to me is blockchain. Like I said, it gets rid of a lot of headache for developers, and it's a fantastic technology to learn. So
I think it's so important how you point out, that what led you to this job that you're clearly really excited about and enjoying was that you needed yard work done, and I think, I don't want to get, turn this into like an Oprah podcast, or maybe I do,
No.
but for people out there that are stuck, I think people, they tend to just sit down at their computer and work harder, and you get some of your best connections and insights and shifts in life when you just go out for a walk, or go to a bar or a cafe, or do a class, and just get out there, meet people.
Exactly. 100%
Success story here.
Yeah.
Hey, Darren, this is awesome. How do folks find you? What's your Twitter? What's the best way to kind of follow what you're doing?
Yeah, if you want to just email me straight away to my Vicinity email address, that'll work. So it's Darren, DARIN, at vicinity.io.
Thank you so much for being on Color and Crypto, and I would love to follow up with you as you proceed with this Kubernetes integration and Stellar, and you're a wealth of information. Thank you.
Absolutely. Have me back anytime. I'd love to join you. So
thanks, Darren. Have a good day.
Thanks.
That was Darren Holbrook, the CTO of 27V. You can reach him on his email, Darren at 27v.io, DARIN at 27v.io. So a great startup story. Their website is launched, 27v.io. Go check them out. They're a client of ours, and this is how we pay the bills at Coloring Crypto.
Coloring Crypto.
What else do you want to hear on Coloring Crypto? Let me know. Give me feedback. Gabe Colors on Twitter. It's at Gabe Colors, GABECOLORS. And hey, if you dig the podcast, you can do us one big favor. Go to iTunes, Apple Podcasts, leave us a review, tell your friends. All right, thanks again for listening. See you next time.